Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Burdett, live from Johannesburg. Here are your headlines. President Jacob Zuma's lawyer asks for more time to prepare as the state capture inquiry gets underway. A 3-year-old is the only survivor after a KwaZulu-Natal man apparently kills his own family and commits suicide. And just a student when he was thrown in jail for a rape he didn't commit. Today, an Umlazi man walked free after nearly 14 years behind bars. Well, the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into state capture got underway this morning, but even before a witness has taken the stand, there are concerns. Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has written to the President because he believes the State Security Agency is wasting time. It's also emerged the lawyers for Ajay and Rajesh Gupta, former Public Enterprises Minister Lynn Brown, Duduzane Zuma and former President Jacob Zuma want to cross-examine witnesses. Erin Bates has spent the day in Parktown where that inquiry is being held and she joins me now. Good evening, Erin. Thank you so much for joining us. So is it possible to cross-examine witnesses or is it absolutely not allowed?
At this point, it isn't allowed, but that's something up for review. So the chairperson of the inquiry, Raymond Zondo, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, has said he will consider the matter. And if the testimony begins before he makes a decision, all the legal counsel will be provided with transcripts of the testimony, and that lawyers for all of these different high-profile parties, the likes of the Guptas and the Zumas, will be able to attend proceedings to read the body language and the tone of the witnesses' testimony.
Former President Zuma's legal team also saying they'd like some more time to prepare. Now, bearing in mind they surely must be going to be asking the same questions that Thuli Madonsela, former public protector, tried to get answers to from the President in 2016. How much preparation is required here?
Well, what is interesting is that the inquiry goes beyond the Public Protector's State of Capture report. They're also incorporating reports from Parliament, inquiries into Eskom, Denel and other state-owned enterprises, and other testimony which is coming forward from witnesses, although we did worryingly hear that the response has not been as good as hoped. So that will add to the scope and the substance of what the inquiry is looking into, which means the council may have grounds for saying we need more time.
What's the issue with security clearance? Why couldn't this have been done 3 months ago?
That's precisely the question. We don't know, but it's certainly been a hindrance in order to begin the work of the inquiry. Investigators 3 months ago, we heard, needed special clearance in order to do undercover investigations. We hear now that the State Security Agency simply has not provided that clearance.
And finally, a broader question. You know, Erin, we've had the Farlam Commission into Marikana, Sariti Commission into the arms deal, the Life Esidimeni inquest, no prosecutions, millions of rands spent. Really, realistically, are we going to see any prosecutions resulting from this?
That's something that only time will tell. We have to wait for the full 2 years of this inquiry's work, but certainly a pertinent question. These inquiries are expensive, they're long-winded, and do they lead to ultimate justice?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's Erin Bates talking to us about the start of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. In Ndleleni, Willie Matebule, Treasury's acting Chief Procurement Officer, is expected to be the first witness up tomorrow. Now to a shocking story from KwaZulu-Natal. A 3-year-old toddler seems the only survivor of what is a family murder in Thornwood, KwaZulu-Natal. Now please note, this story contains very disturbing details. It's alleged a 21-year-old man stabbed his mother, girlfriend and a 3-month-old infant to death before taking his own life. But a 3-year-old, it seems, was spared. Now, horrifically, this crime could have occurred as many as 11 days ago, which means that little girl survived for over a week alone with the dead bodies. The little girl is in hospital tonight. Sipamandla Goge reports.
It's one of the most shocking murders to rock KwaZulu-Natal. A 3-year-old child was found alive, surrounded by 4 decomposing bodies. 57-year-old Thembi Nzama, her daughter-in-law Philile Njagazi, and her 3-month-old granddaughter Nhlakanipho were found with stab wounds. Nzama's son, 21-year-old Khulekani, was found hanging inside the room.
Ngathi masibheka mhlawumbe into enzeke ngeholiday eyenzeke ngeholiday ubakwazile yena ke waseyayihenga ke
Ingangela ngabe yini manje
asazi ngabe siqamba amanga ngoba endlini sifica ingane no 3 years so le incane no 3 months ube service seyibulelwa ifaka kubhima.
The deceased bodies were discovered by friends from their church. Philile Njagazi's mother says she's still confused and shocked by her daughter and granddaughter's deaths.
Angikwazi nami okuyinkinga akukho futhi engikusolayo ngoba ngaze ngitshelwe lutho. Nami ngiyazibuza ngiyaziphendula ukuthi yini lena ebingasaxoxeki ngoba ngaze kuphumele isinqumo esengisithola sesikanje nami ngifonelwa omakhelwane.
Akakaze abike ngokuhlukumezeka kwenu.
Akaze kumina akubiki.
The bereaved family is asking for help.
Amandla okufihla anginawo. Ebengikufisa nje bengifisa uxhaso lokuthi ngikwazi ukubafihla ngoba phela yena undodakazi wami nomntanakhe babhilonga kumina. Then amandla anginawo ngoba nalento bengayilindele.
Police are investigating the matter. Siphamandla Goke, Durban.
Leave because of some reasons that we do not understand at the moment, because resident is actually listening, even people chanting. Let's actually try and go for the youth for
Thousands of people living in informal settlements in the Western Cape marched to Cape Town's municipal offices today. Residents from Philippi are demanding electricity. Now, this makes them particularly vulnerable to crime at night. The city of Cape Town already says its hands are tied as the land belongs to multiple private owners. However, it has promised to install high mast lights at the settlement's boundary. This is where there's a sliver of land that is owned by the city. Must apologise for that brief loss in audio. We're all good now. Let's move now to the northwest and growing calls for the ANC to disband its provincial executive committee. The province's chairperson and former premier, Supra Mahumapelo, was booed by some ANC members this weekend in front of President Cyril Ramaphosa. But ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule has poured cold water on calls for the PEC to be disbanded. He says members need to work together to restore and unite the ANC.
We are here to refocus our structures to say, listen, come together, work together, let's move. This is the year of unity. This is the year of renewing the ANC. So I think the ANC will stay focused. Nobody is going to defocus us. Well, it's not everybody who's saying disband. They have different views. The majority of comrades are saying, let's move forward, let's work. Let's do the ANC work.
Some court news now. And the Western Cape High Court has denied triple axe murderer Henry van Breda's leave to appeal application. Judge Siraj Desai says the state's case is watertight. Van Breda was found guilty of axing to death his father, mother and eldest brother. The 23-year-old was also found guilty of attempting to murder his sister Marley. Van Breda now plans to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal to overturn his conviction and sentence.
All circumstantial.
Staying in Cape Town, the father accused of killing his 3-year-old twins will have to spend some more time behind bars. Mario Yella's trial was meant to get underway in the Western Cape High Court today, but was instead postponed to September the 3rd. His twins were visiting him at a holiday complex in Hout Bay in March 27 when they were murdered. The Spanish dentist apparently made a confession to his ex-wife when she arrived to fetch them. The motive for the murders is still unknown. Now, a remarkable story from KwaZulu-Natal. An Umlazi man who was wrongfully convicted of rape and spent almost 14 years in prison walked free today. Njabul Ndlovu was sentenced to life imprisonment in 2004 for being involved in a gang rape. He was 19 years old at the time and studying law at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Now, during the rape trial, evidence was presented that Ndlovu was nowhere near the crime scene. But it seems the court overlooked that. Ndlovu completed his law degree last year, was still in prison, and he's now considering suing the state. And here he explains how he coped in prison as an innocent man.
Ngithe ngifika ejele ngayiprograma mina myself ukuthi okay ngoba sengigqoke kanje angithi icala ngilenzile even nangumuntu oseceleni kwami so ngithe ngifika ejele ngaba umuntu olenzile icala ngaphila ukulenza icala lokho kungisize kakhulu ngoba ukube bengihlezi ngikuveza ukuthi angilenzanga lonto ibizongibulala kakhulu because bekuyisilonda bese ngidla ngaphakathi.
What an incredible story. Still ahead on eNews, we get the latest from India, where a massive humanitarian disaster is unfolding in the flood-hit southern region. And of course, your market news with Mateo.
Well, the market in positive territory for a change as the biggest share, Naspers, decides to pull its weight today.
It's time now to talk money with Mateo Kharipa. Evening again, Mateo. Now, Transnet results are out. Can't be an easy time to release your results. Last week, your CEO is suspended along with 2 other executives. Big questions over our parastatals. How did the numbers look?
Well, Siyabonga Gama actually stepped up to the podium today with an axe in his head. Of course, he had been, tabled with that suspension last week, but he came out to give the results, and according to him, it would have been the greatest results from Transnet had they not had that irregular expenditure. So what they did was, in terms of the external auditors, Sizwe and Saluba Koboto, they went back as far as 2009 to look at some of the contracts that Transnet has been involved in and found a lot of irregular expenditure. In fact, the irregular expenditure from 2017 was at around 600 million rand. But, today they announced that 8.1 billion rand of irregular expenditure, and that immediately put the company under a qualified audit, with Sizwe and Saluba Koboto saying they're concerned that the company won't be a going concern or a company that can run on its own. We do remember, of course, that Transnet has a lot of loans that it's asked from lenders, and it's really, it's got clauses in those loans that say if you do get a qualified audit, we have every right to come and ask for our money back. Now, if 2 or 3 of those lenders come back and say, look, we want our money now, there's a concern that Transnet won't have enough money and might have to go back to Treasury to try and get rescued for that. But Siyabonga Gama says he wants to go through the thick and thin of it. Popo Molefe, who's the chairman, saying the board has spoken to some of these lenders and said, look, guys, give us some time. Let's look at what we can do in terms of remedial actions at the company. Hence, you've seen the suspensions, and it looks like there's a lot of actioning of trying to get Transnet to where it's supposed to be in terms of running the parastatal the right way. But if it wasn't for that, it would have reported great results today. I mean, they had a 75% increase in profits and about 11.3% increase in revenue. So it's a company that could be doing well, but this is, of course, the ugly face of, the state capture that we've seen, and a lot of powerful individuals getting irregular contracts.
Well, this is where the rubber hits the road. How were the markets today generally?
Much better today because we saw Tencent last week taking Naspers down 5%. Now that, of course, resulted in the all-share and industrials going down last week, but Naspers back at about 3% up today. The all-share was up in positive territory. Industrials were also up more than 1%, while financials were shrugging off the choppy trade that came from the rand. And FNB, a rand merchant bank, coming up with a good value from its shares, and that pushed up the financials today. And in terms of the share trading, in terms of mining companies, gold was down. In fact, Anglo Gold Ashanti coming out today and giving out great results. But despite that, those were down 2%, and platinum up more than 1%, with resources also closing up a good day for miners, I would say.
Commodities and currencies?
Well, in terms of commodities, well, we'll look at that in just a moment. But in terms of the rand strength, we've got the inflation number coming out this week. It's expected to be a higher number. That should be driving the currency later this week. And also the US meeting about its interest rates. When they push their interest rates up, that has an effect on the rand as well. It's at 14.59, firmer today against the dollar. It's at 16.71 against the euro, and also standing quite well against the pound at 18.64, but not near levels that we've seen recently around that 13 rand to the dollar mark.
Thank you.
And in terms of gold, well, gold reflected what the miners were saying today. There wasn't much share trading with the companies, and it was at $1,187 an ounce. And platinum also down today, still at those 10-year lows at $700 per ounce there, with Brent crude also keeping low today at $72.25 a barrel.
Thank you so much, Moteo. Let's move now to international news and the devastating floods in southern India. More than 370 people have died in the state of Kerala. Nearly 1 million people have been displaced.
India's state of Kerala has been turned into a mass of water. Thousands of homes are submerged and some residents have had to use rowing boats to escape.
Everything in our house, the very foundation of our house is gone. All our life's belongings have gone.
I'm staying in a relief camp and I need help.
The flooding is the worst in over a century. Close to 1 million people have been taking shelter in relief camps. While the rain has let up for now, one of authorities' biggest fears is an outbreak of water and airborne diseases in the camps.
And finally, best to send your beloved dogs out of the room for the story about the latest dessert craze. Don't worry. Now, these images are not of a real puppy. It's actually all ice cream, I promise. Puppy craze customers are flocking to a restaurant in Taiwan for this creamy frozen feast. The puddings take about 5 hours to make, and you can choose to have your frozen pooch in chocolate, milk tea or peanut-flavoured ice cream. Clever dessert and, of course, yet another fantastic excuse for a food selfie. That's your news tonight. Take care. Good night.